disgraced South Carolina attorney and convicted killer Alec Murdaugh pleading guilty this morning to 22 federal charges, including stealing nearly $9 million from his disabled clients to avoid a trial in that case. Attorneys agreeing to a plea deal. Joining me now, Brendan Clark from our Charleston station. Brendan, welcome to you. You were in court. It's a federal court, so no cameras allowed. I'm curious, Alec Murdaugh's demeanor and what he said.
Yeah, I think everyone is curious about that. Marni, thanks for having me this afternoon. He came in smiling, talking to his attorneys. He was concerned a bit about the media, the number of media members that were in the jury pool at the time. But then he got very serious. He said he was proud to be 744 days sober, away from opioids and away from alcohol. He did, though, become emotional when he talked about why he was accepting this plea deal, why he was doing what he was doing. He said he wanted to take responsibility, said he wanted his son to see him take responsibility, and he was hoping by doing this, the people he hurt were healed. So that was his emotions. He was shackled in an orange jumpsuit, had handcuffs on, also shackled at the ankles too, but emotional at some points, smiling at others, kind of the range, the gamut of emotions, if you will, inside the courtroom behind me. Marni.
Pleading guilty to the financial crimes, and he faces others in addition, but still maintaining his innocence in the murders of his wife and son. Did he say anything about them in court?
He did not. It's funny because I've been in courtroom several times when Alec Murdaugh has been there, but this is the first time we actually heard him plead guilty to anything. He's pleaded not guilty on the state charges. That trial, the financial crimes, supposed to go November 27th of November, the first Monday after Thanksgiving. Did not say anything about Paul and Maggie Murdaugh during this trial at all. Of course, there are charges of jury tampering. They're alleging that there was jury tampering. They're trying to get another murder trial as it resorts to that. But so far, they haven't heard back from the U.S. Attorney General's office on that right now. But no mention of his wife or son in that. Just Buster, who he said he wanted him to see him take responsibility for what he did.
And was Buster in court this morning?
Yeah, no, we expected to see him, to be honest with you. There were certainly a lot of attorneys, a lot of people, a lot of members of the media there. We certainly expected a packed house because it's a very small courtroom in which this was held, but we did not see Buster there, which was kind of surprising to some. He, of course, has been at the murder trial supporting his dad every day, every step of the way, but he was not there today.
And what's the next step? I heard attorneys just moments ago for Alec Murdaugh talking about the possibility of a polygraph test. Will he agree to do that, and would that be in regards to the murder charges?
Yeah, that was very interesting, right? I did ask both the prosecution, the state, the government, and also the defense about that when they had their press conference out here just a minute ago. Would he be willing to do that? Of course, Jim Griffin with the defense said, yeah, he would be willing if they want him to do that. Said he had been honest the whole time and that he would be honest with this polygraph. The government, did not say whether they had a timeline. They weren't ready to answer the question about when they would want to do that, but certainly that opens up a lot if you were to take that polygraph test. Imagine if he lied on that polygraph test and did not tell the truth. That would bring a whole slew of new charges.
Yeah, it's such a spider web of a case, so many different charges and families impacted. Yet another chapter in this saga. He'll be back in court in November to face the state charges against financial crimes. Brendan Clark from our Charleston affiliate, thank you. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.